snowing today. Well, it snowed yesterday, and now there's snow. It's really pretty. I love snow so much. When I was 6, I saw the movie Harriet the Spy, which is about a young girl who investigates people in her neighborhood and keeps a notebook about her observations. I really loved the movie and started taking to wandering my neighborhood with a pair of binoculars, sitting on the curb and using the binoculars to look into people's windows. And yes, I kept a notebook of my observations. My parents put a stop to this behavior once they found out, because of course I was violating people's privacy and being kind of creepy, but it was an early experience of mine in indulging in people watching. Nowadays I prefer to sit in the back corner of a bar and just observe as people come and go, but of course other people at the bar are probably doing the same. Which brings us to today's topic, which is the experience of both seeing other people and being seen by them, and what happens when one becomes the other. I will be talking about the movies The Ring, Ring, and Rear Window. There will be spoilers. I'm Cantor, by the way. I make videos on YouTube about media. Please subscribe and like if this video resonates with you. The 2002 movie The Ring absolutely terrified me when I saw it for the first time when I was 13. In it, Naomi Watts plays Rachel, a journalist and single mom. When her niece suddenly dies of mysterious causes, she starts investigating what happened and eventually finds a videotape that kills you a week after you watch it. This film is the American remake of the Japanese film Ring, which is in turn based on a novel. The world Rachel lives in The Ring is quite isolating. She works a lot, her son Aiden is emotionally detached and calls her Rachel instead of mom, and indicated that there is distance between them. Aiden's father, Noah, is barely around and isn't involved in raising Aiden, but after Rachel watches the cursed tape, Noah is the one she calls because he's an audiovisual technology expert. He watches the video too, but is more skeptical of its power to kill than Rachel is.
Look, I thought you said this was about a tape.
So here we have Rachel and Noah witnessing something strange. The video contains an array of different scenes, all of which are either a little bizarre or a lot bizarre. The meaning is unclear at first, but the origin could be something very dark, possibly truly evil. After watching the video, one gets a phone call where a voice says 7 days. Already the movie is playing with the dual concepts of seeing and being seen. Not only have you witnessed this intense and disturbing video, but someone saw you seeing it. They know you've watched and they're coming for you. It's terrifying. As the movie unfolds, we learn more about the creator of the tape, which ends up being a young girl from an isolated island community named Samara Morgan.
Isn't it beautiful here, Samara?
Samara was subjected to all kinds of tests due to her having psychic powers, and then was forced to live in a tiny loft in her parents' barn because her parents couldn't stand to be near her. In the end, Samara's mother murders her in order to get away from the girl's psychic visions that she places in other people's heads. It turns out the TV in a rental cabin that recorded the video was directly above the well where Samara's body was tossed. Rachel gets closer to the truth and sees more and more of the reality of Samara's life and wants to help her.
What did you do to her? She was your daughter!
So at this point in the movie, things are unfolding where Rachel is bearing witness to Samara's struggles. Samara wants to be seen and Rachel wants to see. It's a narrative similar to the normal human struggle of wanting to be seen as our true full selves. It's a very normal desire to want our friends and close family members to see us with accuracy. To not be seen in a true way can easily lead to a sense of isolation. Now, Samara's methods are dramatic in that she's killing people in a desperate attempt to be seen, but Rachel and we, the viewer, feel sympathy for her, especially because her parents rejected her and she was murdered by her mother. Being strangled by her mother and tossed down into a well is a great metaphor for the experience of being unseen. If no one is seeing you in a real and earnest way, you may as well be at the bottom of a well, hidden from the sunlit world above. At the point in the movie where Noah is watching the tape, Rachel goes out onto her balcony and looks around at the condos around her and what I can only assume is supposed to be Seattle. In Ring, the protagonist Reiko does the same thing while Ryuji, the Japanese counterpart to Noah, watches the tape. In the Japanese film, Reiko looks around only at the rainy buildings, but in The Ring, we get to see directly into other people's condos. In each one, people are going about their lives while glued to a television. Now keep in mind, The Ring came out in 2002, so this was before the first iPhone came out, and even before Facebook was live at Harvard. If the movie were made nowadays, being glued to one's phone would have a similar message as the images of people in their apartments glued to the television. Rachel is witnessing a world where people are glued to the images on a screen rather than seeing each other and interacting with other people in a real way. She is seeing the modern struggle of isolation. She is seeing people who may as well be at the bottom of a well, looking up at the beautiful images far up above. One of the neighbors watching TV has his leg up and is in a wheelchair, which must be a direct reference to the 1951 Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window. It's funny to me because Rear Window has long been my favorite Hitchcock film, and I've seen The Ring countless times, but before rewatching The Ring for this video, I had never made the connection between the neighbor with his broken leg and Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window.
Jeffries?
Congratulations, Jeff.
For what?
For getting rid of that cast.
Who said I was getting rid of it?
My father was a huge Hitchcock fan, and I think through that I learned to both love Hitchcock and also to appreciate older films, which can be a skill that one has to develop if you aren't used to how classic films work. That being said, I've been happily surprised by how some Hitchcock films can truly scare me, even though they are quite old at this point and don't have any of the modern special effects and computer technologies that movies often rely on nowadays to create fear. Do yourself a favor and watch Rear Window if you never have. I highly recommend it. In Rear Window, James Stewart plays L.B. Jeffries, a professional photographer who is currently disabled after breaking his leg while catching a dramatic shot on a race car track. Stuck in his apartment in New York City, he starts watching The Neighbors, and from there notices when the wife in one of the neighbor apartments suddenly vanishes and her husband appears to be cleaning up a crime scene. In the film, Jeffries is seeing other people, but he is seeing private things rather than things people are trying to communicate to him, as is the case with Rachel watching Samara's videotape. Still, Jeffries is convinced that what he is seeing will help someone. He wants to catch the neighbor murderer if he did indeed kill his wife. But at the same time, is his viewing of his neighbors a violation? After all, they do have the option to close their blinds for privacy, and they usually don't do that. It makes me think of social media, where people are constantly making their lives visible, but depending on how cautious you are and what your account privacy settings are like, you might be revealing things about yourself and your life that you didn't intend. Once something is posted to a public Instagram account, for example, it's out there for anyone to witness and form an opinion about, just like Jeffrey's looking into his neighbor's windows. They choose not to close their blinds, just as some people choose to make their social media account public. At what point does witnessing another person's social media presence cross the line into being snooping, into being a violation? And is this type of being seen the same as being seen through direct conversation with someone you trust? I would argue that it isn't the same. In many ways, society has become a lot like the view out Jeffrey's window. We see so much of what is going on, but it's not healthy, life-enriching sharing with others whom we trust. Instead, it's displaying our lives in an open window, hoping that someone looking in from the outside will sustain us. We are at the bottom of the well, hoping that someone will look down and see us and that will be good for us, but what we really need is to get out of the well. In the end, Jeffrey's neighbor, whom he suspects of murder, realizes Jeffries is spying on him and shows up at Jeffrey's door, enters, and attacks him. Jeffries is thrown from a window, but is okay in the end, though he does end up breaking his other leg. And the neighbor is arrested for the murder that it turns out he did actually commit. So for Jeffries, watching into other people's windows did lead to a good thing. The murderer was caught and there will be justice for the wife who was killed. But what about Rachel? Did her bearing witness to Samara's pain help the girl and lift the curse? When Rachel doesn't die at the end of 7 days, she and Noah assume the curse has been lifted because Rachel helped Samara and found her body in the well. Aiden watched the video too, and Rachel and Noah are relieved that their son will be safe, and then they go their separate ways. But things aren't what they seem. Back at his home, Samara comes out of Noah's TV and kills him. Rachel eventually puts together that the reason she survived after 7 days is that she, unlike Noah, made a copy of the tape and showed it to someone else. It was not enough for Rachel to see Samara and her pain. Samara wants her curse to spread and spread and spread. She's angry and wants that rage to be witnessed over and over again, or else. And this is naturally what happens when one lives in isolation for too long. There's an anger that can come up, a sense of desperation in the face of not being seen. Living at the bottom of a well, it makes sense that eventually one would be angry at seeing the sky above, but being unable to reach it. It may be too late to soothe Samara's rage. She is on a revenge mission and has a plan. So, my advice to you today is to climb out of that well. Talk to your people that you trust. Get involved in new activities. Have real conversation. Screens aren't all bad, but get out into the world too so that you are doing activities that are sustaining your life. I wish you the best with finding true connections and finding good people who will see you with kindness. I'm Cantor. Thanks for watching.